Hello and welcome to my luxury accommodations, my new work area for the short term. Currently in the lean-to next to the garage because the garage is full up of other things and I don't have the time and ability to move everything around. This is good enough. So I've had a rallycross off camera since the last time we've seen each other. Susquehanna Event 3, and it was a absolute scorcher of a day, and I was very busy at the time, a lot of stuff going on, and I knew recording a coherent video was just not going to happen, so I did bare minimum recording. At that event, I ended up having an issue where mid-run I was running out of fuel. Similar to what happened on event 1 at Susquehanna, where I had the fuel bowl set incorrectly and it would just run out of fuel mid-run, doing pretty much exactly the same thing. So I tried to adjust the fuel float level, and the first indication to me that might not have been the actual issue was everything was tight on it. They have a set screw on it and it kind of locks it into place. None of that was loose, so it shouldn't have changed from the last time I adjusted it. So should have been my indication that that might not have been my issue, but I was fighting with it and it was a whole fiasco. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know the whole story there, which led to me losing an ignition coil, which exploded. In case you don't know, old canister style ignition coils, depending on how old they are, or like what design they are, can be filled with oil for heat transfer. And if your coil gets hot, it can build pressure and explode. As I found out, covering you in burning hot oil. Thankfully, I have access to analytical equipment at work, and I was able to determine that it's pretty much just your standard hydrocarbon oil, so nothing too dangerous in there, which is nice to know. It's just burning a hot oil, which is still not pleasant. Anyway, the actual issue seems to be something else than the fuel level, because I reset that and I tested it in the ramp truck and it seemed like it was fine. I had fuel coming out of the site. That's a good sign. Seemed good. But then it just didn't want to run. Getting it off of the truck, it was spitting, sputtering. I had to give it throttle to have any chance of running. It needed RPM, or else it didn't want to live. At idle, just nothing. And I think there's 3 things that could be causing that. 2 of them are kind of interlocked. Those being that the fuel filter is plugged and that it's not letting fuel through it easily. Now, that second thing that could be the issue, which is connected to that, is that the foam that's in the fuel cell is degraded and made it into the fuel system and plugged the fuel filter. And the way that is this has just a basic bog standard plastic fuel cell with a giant bit of foam in there, and that foam serves as a baffle. Keeps the fuel from sloshing around when you're driving, going left and right. Helps keep from having fuel starvation. However, over time, especially if the vehicle sits and gas sits in that foam without moving or doing anything, that foam tends to degrade, break down, and then get into your fuel system. So it's possible that's happened and plugged my fuel filter. It's also possible that that fuel filter is just plugged because of other things. The third one, if it's not those 2 items, is that it's the fuel pump. This is, once again, the fuel pump that was on it when I bought it. These fuel pumps, this one is mechanical. If they sit for a long period of time and they're not used, that diaphragm can dry out, and when you put fuel in it, it might rehydrate and work for a period of time before it breaks apart and becomes an issue. So that could be what's going on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the easier of the two things, which is to check the fuel filter. If I open up the fuel filter and it looks perfectly clean, we know it's not the fuel cell, we know it's not the fuel filter, we know, all right, let's look at fuel pump. If we open that fuel filter and it's a bunch of blue bits in there, we know it's the fuel cell foam has come apart and we need a new fuel cell pronto. Nope, it's 9/16. Oh, that's fuel, full of fuel. Comes spurting out as soon as I loosen it. It's looking like it may be item 3. Let's see if I can get a shot of this. I'm not focusing, but looks quite clean. Not seeing anything in there. Crystal clear to the bottom there. So yeah, I think fuel filter is good. So that means it's likely fuel pump related. This is a Fram HPG1 fuel filter, and I, as you might expect, am replacing it with a Wix because I'm a Vice Grip Garage fan. Now to move my rigged ignition coil that I currently have. 3D printed case, which I have no idea is going to last or not. I'm not sure how TPU is going to handle the temperature of the ignition. There's the offending part. Just trying to pull some of this old gasket material. I used a little bit of RTV. So it rides right on top of the lobe. And part of me wishes I can bump it so I can feel what the lobe feels like. Because part of me wonders, what if this is my glitter? What if it's the mechanical fuel pump? Because I don't feel a lobe. There's definitely an eccentric there. Yeah, I guess we'll know if we put the new fuel pump on and it still sucks. It could be that my fuel pump lobe is going away. Guess we'll find out. This says start threading, then tilt pump, bobs around T. Click. Click. All right, let's clean up the engine bay and give her a whirl. All right, I apologize in advance. This is gonna be a little shaky because, you know, I'm trying to do 10 things at once. Here goes nothing. Sounds good. See where IFR is. Much better. Similar behavior to what I was doing with the old fuel pump. bar changing on me. I mean, that's pretty happy, but let's get in it and try moving it forward and back a bit. Hold your eardrums. Yep, there it is. Seemed happier moving forward and backwards. Oh, I almost hit the wall of the lean-to here. Just one day left, it's fine. Everything's fine. Your air compressor's running. That is because we are filling up our tank. I have the airbags for the suspension isolated, so now I can swap back and forward, and I have a control here so I can shut it off and should hold pressure, and because I'm connected here it shouldn't backfeed, and I can, when I want to swap to filling the airbags, I just close off that valve, open up this valve, and then I still have the control in the cab to fill up the airbags. Running out of daylight. As you can see, the lights are on in Clyde here. But got things tidied up. I had to fix a few minor things. One of them being this latch had rusted through and broken free and wasn't working, and you know, I fixed it with a drill bit, piece of iron was that conduit or iron piping, and then the original wheel, and re-drilled it further away, you know, minty fresh, but it works and it'll hold together, and it's better than nothing. That's a low bar to clear, but it's the bar I'm clearing. All right, things left to do. Clyde's pretty much wrapped up. I just need to get the straps out of the way, get ready to load. Dewit is what needs more work. I technically would like to do oil change on it. Probably not going to happen until maybe I'll do it at the track. I have fuel cell foam needs to go in yet. The fuel cell foam is supposed to show up tomorrow. I'm very nearly about to just put the old fuel cell back in, fuel cell foam back in, and try to get that squared away so that way I can load Dewit tomorrow and hit the road and camp out tomorrow. But right now it's looking very much like I am going to leave like early Saturday morning to hit the road, because it's gonna be tight. There's just a lot left to tidy up. It's gonna be a hard task, but I really want to win a DC region event in a Jeep, just to rub it in the BMW's faces. The best part of a rally truck is I got enough room for another set of tires in the back of this truck. And the fuel cell is, I think, done for today. We have a minor issue of the fitting that goes to, like, in the tank came loose. And after I got all those bolts tightened, so probably gonna stay that way. I don't think I went over the ignition setup. I kind of just did it. So I'd like to break off the ignition coil into its own separate thing, as well as like run the alternator to the ignition switch. But I've just run out of time. We're gonna have to keep doing it the way it was. I also wanted to put a ballast resistor for this ignition coil because I think it may be getting too much juice. But I just, once again, I'm out of time. But I got it in here and mounted solid once again to the roll bar. Ooh, I better clean that up a bit. Anyway, got that in there. And yeah, it's not going anywhere. Looks pretty good. And we'll see if that one blows up. I got a spare there. It is 2 in the morning. Saturday, race day. Had a rush to get some last minute projects done. Get an oil change done on dewit. Replace the front toe point, which I had to cut to get dewit out after winching it in last time because I winched it in far enough that it bound and I couldn't get it out, so I had to cut the toe strap. But yeah, we're about to disembark and see how things go. I did notice when strapping the truck down that I have a brake leak on the going from the hard line to the soft line on the rear axle. Hopefully it's just a matter of tightening the bolt there, and we're back in business. Worst case scenario, I've already considered I'm just gonna like bend the brake line and not have rear brakes. I'll just have front brakes, and it'll be what it'll be. It'll be better than nothing. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. With that, the rain has rolled in. I'm gonna hit the road. You join me in my garage. I've made it out of my driveway. That is how far this trip has gone so far before we had our first failure. Yeah, I pulled out of the driveway and then I looked down and saw that my airbags were at 0 PSI after I had just inflated them to 40. I found that there was one of the fittings. I changed over to have the standard 1/4 inch plastic quick connects. The brass fitting I screwed that into cracked and was leaking air. So now I'm scrambling trying to fix it. So let's see what we can do. A little messy, but it's holding air. Now let's hit the road, okay? Whew. What a start. Now you can see much at all. The rain has turned torrential. This would have been probably hitting where I'm going last night. Or if I say last night, probably early yesterday. Hope it's not too washed out, but I'm gonna go back to driving, folks, because this is scary. Alright. First fuel stop. We're about 130-ish miles out, I think. 35.143 gallons. Odometer reading is 1680.5. So let's get back to it and get to the track. My air fittings are leaking somewhere in the tune of like 10 psi every 50, 100 miles, somewhere around there. So enough that I can just refill it the 30 seconds it takes to refill it and let it drain back down. And then when we get to the track, I'll loosen some of the fittings and try to tighten it up, and maybe some Teflon or something. We'll get it right. But let's hit the road. So at the bottom of the hill, temps were 180. And right now we're sitting about 200 and starting to drop back down already. So I think we'll be good once we get to the more serious hills, but I'll worry about that when we get to it. enter the highway, and we got a car up there in front doing under the speed limit, trying to hang back so I can get a run up after this sharp corner. He's gonna slow down when he'll pass. I don't blame you, bud, but you're gonna see why I was going slow too, because I'm gonna try to keep momentum up after this short turn and get up this hill. Yep, there, slowing way down. Alright, we got a little run up. You got this, Clyde. strong smell of gas in the cab here. And I was watching my gas gauge, or fuel gauge, go down pretty fast. Not sure what that was about. I switched tanks to the other tank, and that tank has slightly more gas, I think, than it had when I switched off of it. So something might be going a little weird, but we're here. We can take a look once I get in the paddock. This track it looks pretty rutted out. It also looks like they haven't set it up yet. Looks like they're in the process of setting up timing, as is typical. Gas is pouring out of the sight here when I pull it off, which is a sign that the float is too high. I haven't had a proper chance to set the float. I want it to be a little higher because I was having issues previously, but that means fuel delivery does not seem to be an issue. I'm going to do some other things and then come back to this. Got the carb set, the fuel float level, but now it's weeping fuel. Oh, that'd be why. Focus. I double gasketed it. Let's try it with one gasket. Always, everybody says. Drive through, course looks really rough. DeWitt is unhappy, very unhappy. Not sure exactly what's going on, but gonna have to just figure it out. Plan is run first run, get a lay of the land, then look at pulling the alternator off, run second run, see what it does. Because I think this might not be carb related, but we'll get back to it. lunch break. I'm gonna try changing spark plugs real quick. Probably not gonna do anything. Probably not gonna learn much other than it's very rich, but I already know that. Shockingly lean looking. Almost looks like electrode. Doubt you'll be able to see any of it, but almost looks like the electrode's getting melted. Yep, nailed it. Very much the same as the other two.
morning. Welcome to peaceful West Virginia. Morning of day 2 of DC Rallycross event. Yesterday was just fun but difficult day of just fighting the carb all day. I expect pretty much the same today. After we wrapped up, was able to do a little bit of work on dewit, change the carb jets from 62s to 60s, and did a little trolling around the parking lot to see if it would help, and forgot to take everything out of the back of the truck and threw my cooler out the bed, threw all my tools across the bed, and then spent probably about an hour cleaning up that mess. But it seemed better in that little drive. It'll probably be terrible today. I'll probably go back to the 62 jets. We'll find out. But after that, was able to, there's a river not too far from here. About 10-15 of us from the event went down, pulled off in the river. That was really nice. Really nice. Went and got dinner at a local place. Was really good food. Yesterday we had like 4 or 5 different groups of people show up, go, hey, what are you guys doing? Can I come watch? And yeah, you can. And they went and did ride-alongs, and hopefully they'll be back with the vehicle in the future. So yeah, get yourself to a rallycross. Like, especially a day like today, early morning, can't beat it. Sunday, final day, and I'm beat. I think I might actually understand what's going on with DeWitt now. At least it makes sense in theory. So, as you may remember back at the beginning of this video, we were having issues with DeWitt running at all, so we changed the fuel pump. And when I changed the fuel pump, I figured it's a factory replacement fuel pump, it should be alright. But I think what's happening here is that fuel pump is generating enough fuel pressure at high RPM that it's overpowering the float, overfilling the bowl. I was adjusting the carb float at idle, and at idle it was like getting to the point where it didn't want to run. Like I was pulling so much fuel out of it, but then at the end of the run it would just fall on its face, completely rich, and just not want to run, flood the engine. And that's what makes sense to me, because otherwise, I don't know. It is too dang hot to be like forcing DeWitt to run and live as much as I am. So I'm gonna relax by doing photography and stuff. Probably still overdo it, and then be tired on the way home. But yeah, hope I captured a little bit of what this weekend's like. I can't say enough about how much I enjoy Panthera, this area, and DC region. Folks are awesome.